Story 1. Vanilla, don't get me wrong. I love the flavor, but the scent is revolting to me. Years ago, my parents got a secondhand freezer. Long story short, a guy got divorced, and his wife unplugged the freezer before she left while he was out of town. So everything in it defrosted and went bad. It was only a year or two old, and the guy said my dad could have it for free if he cleaned it himself. Dad agreed, brought it home, and emptied and cleaned it with a vanilla-scented heavy-duty cleaner. Our whole house smelled of vanilla and rotten meat, so now when I smell vanilla, it reminds me of that disgusting odor. Story 2. Weed causes me to dry heave and feel extremely nauseous. Someone who smells as if they have been smoking heavily for a week always sits in front of me on the train. Story 3. Salmon cooking indoors and the auto-clean cycle of the oven reminded me of my childhood. I often felt so sick from the smell that I would be forced to lie down and put a towel under my bedroom door. I have not experienced that since becoming an adult. With no air filters or air conditioning, the 1980s were quite an experience. We certainly endured a lot. Story 4. New car smell. We used to go on holiday around the same time my father got a brand new company car. I suffered from severe motion sickness, spending 24 hours in a hot car. The smell of a new car makes me feel physically ill. Story 5. Marijuana smoke has become unpleasant for me. It feels like I am constantly driving behind people who choose to smoke it inside their vehicles. Story 6. Hangover, yogurt, or any other dairy product, most things with added fragrance, skunk, the smell that permeates ice when in the freezer too long, bad breath, wet dog, fish, and wet concrete or asphalt. I don't like the smell of most things. Onion sweat, like in a locker room after lunch. Story 7. My dad used to smoke cigarettes in the bathroom while using the toilet. The lingering scent would remain for hours, and there is something about the confined space, smoke, and unpleasant odors. Story 8. White vinegar. My ex-stepmom used to make me clean the bathrooms with white vinegar, and I immediately feel overwhelmed when I smell it. Story 9. Cigarette smoke may seem hypocritical for me to criticize since I used to smoke cannabis and do not mind its smell. However, cigarette smoke has an unpleasant odor that makes me feel nauseous, especially when I can smell it on someone's breath. Story 10. Feet smell. One time when I was riding a crowded bus, I became pale and almost fainted from the odor of feet. Luckily, the kind lady next to me gave me some ointment to help me breathe and massaged my hands. Story 11. Those little chocolate peppermints, the green kind, always sicken me. I don't know why so many people like them. To each their own, I suppose. Story 12. Strong smells trigger my migraines. Body odor. Please remember that nobody wants to smell it. Dirty hair, excessive cologne or perfume, and fish heated in a microwave are all issues. This applies to everyone working in offices. Just don't bring in leftover fish. Lastly, durian. Story 13. Not all, but candles, perfumes, and colognes are usually a problem for me. Something about the artificial nature. Story 14. Subway. I used to walk by one on my way to work. Eventually, I started crossing the street to avoid it. I can't explain the smell. Maybe sour bread and other things? It's just unpleasant. Story 15. I have post-traumatic stress disorder from a single rum incident when I was about 15. My brain remembers the smell, and it triggers a strong response in me. Story 16. Not a specific smell, but people who apply excessive amounts of perfume without considering those around them. It feels like a chemical attack on my nose. Story 17. Chlorine bleach has affected me ever since I was pregnant with my daughter 20 years ago. It's like a switch flipped in my brain. The strange thing is that she likes the smell. Story 18. There are many good answers here, but I want to share the worst thing I ever smelled that made me gag involuntarily. Rotting pig waste. I was cleaning pig pens for extra money in high school and used my trusty shovel to peel back a layer of wet straw, revealing a wriggling mass of maggots. It felt like someone was pushing my vomit button as if they were playing a video game. Story 19. 1. Urine. 2. Vomit. 3. Bad breath. 4. Seafood kitchen. 5. Rotting seafood, rotting meat, and any expired food that produces a foul smell. 6. Cannabis. 7. Cigarettes. Vaping products, although they do not have a strong odor, I feel uncomfortable when exposed to aerosols. The smell of the liquid after popping a pimple. 10. Additional odors. Story 20. Apple blossom and those overly sweet candles are very strong and unpleasant. Apple blossom triggers my migraines. Story 21. Cigarettes and my dad's car while he was alive. It smelled like stale ditch weed, diabetes, and whatever was rotting in the back. Story 22. Anything rotting or spoiled. A few years ago, my cousin and his family went out of town for a couple of weeks. While they were gone, there was a brief power outage at their house, and the meat freezer in his garage had a failsafe that prevented it from turning back on when the power returned. They live in Arizona, and it was summertime. Upon returning home, they were greeted with a most foul stench. I volunteered to help him clean it out. The smell was horrific. The freezer was full of spoiled chicken, beef, fish, shrimp, and other items. Fortunately, I had masks on hand that helped a bit with the smell. In total, he lost over $1,000 in meat and had to junk the freezer, as there was no getting the smell out. Story 23. Basil. For most of my life, I loved it. Then, at some point, my perspective changed. Now, even a hint of it on someone's pizza makes me think about moving. Story 24. Weirdly, chicken noodle soup seems out of context. It's like walking down a city street that smells unpleasant. Story 25. Cheese and milk, cooked sausage. The surprising thing is that I love consuming these foods. I rely heavily on cheese and milk, but as soon as I can smell them, it's all over. Story 26. The gas station by my house has a strong smell of pine sol. I will never eat or drink anything from that place, but they do sell used AA batteries. Story 27. I dislike the smell of the cleaner Simple Green. It has a strong odor, and I cannot understand why so many companies use it for cleaning. It is unpleasant. Story 28. Bad breath. They won't use dental floss to clean the rotting meat caught between their teeth. Story 29. The decaying pineapple plant I stepped on today exuded a nauseating stench, blending the sourness of fermented fruit with the musty odor of damp, decomposing vegetation, intensified by the slimy, putrid base. Story 30. Unpopular opinion. I might be shunned for this, but I used to like bacon. However, I quit eating it a long time ago, and now I just can't bring myself to eat it again. Story 31. Cigarette smoke, hot garbage on a summer day, and paper mills. I once smelled a paper mill, and it was like someone mixed boiled cabbage with unwashed odor. Story 32. Freshly cut cucumber. I love the taste, but I can smell the odor from a couple of rooms away, even after the knife and cutting board have been washed. I have no idea how, as my sense of smell is average at best. Story 33. Phillips milk of magnesia. I'm feeling nauseous just thinking about it. The worst part is that I have discovered the OxyClean I use for my laundry smells very similar to this product. Story 34. Anything to do with rotten food is all compiled into a trash bin. As a challenge to myself, I always tell myself to just open that lid and take a nice long whiff. Of course, I never do, but I can only imagine. Story 35. Perfume can be harmful. I understand that I am sensitive to it, but it also contains hormone-altering chemicals that are not good for you. Story 36. Other people's menstrual blood. I was a certified nursing assistant for a while. While 99% of the time the individuals I dealt with had their entire reproductive system removed, one woman's family did not for religious reasons. She was total care and was essentially paralyzed from the neck down. Never again. Story 37. I have to cover my nose whenever I walk through the perfume stalls in Dubai malls. It gives me a massive headache. Story 38. Freshly baked bread makes me gag. I will vomit if I cannot get away and into fresh air. It's bizarre, given that I have never met anyone else with this issue. Story 39. The chemical smell of shoe shops is overpowering. Rotten eggs are particularly foul when they are black inside. One whiff can make me feel ill for hours. We have chickens, so it is sadly not as uncommon as it should be to encounter one that smells. Unpleasant odors from people on public transport and in shops are also bothersome. Story 40. Experiencing discomfort when sitting in an aisle seat about to exit a plane while someone is standing next to you can be frustrating. This phenomenon can also refer to general discomfort in similar situations. Story 41. Raw chicken. Ever since my first pregnancy, it has smelled putrid, regardless of how fresh it is. I have to breathe through my mouth whenever I cook it and ask someone else to check the smell, even if I know it is within the expiration date because I cannot accurately judge it. Story 42. Body odor, or the scent when a few homeless individuals have been on the bus or light rail, tends to linger. Story 43. Currently, my dog still hasn't figured out that it doesn't want to play with him, for the third time. Story 44. I grew up allergic to many artificial scents. One of my earliest memories is being covered in hives from fabric softener. Therefore, I exclusively use scent-free products and have become quite sensitive to strong smells. Walking past a Bath and Body Works gives me an instant headache. Most of their products are individually too strong, but when combined, it's overwhelming. There is one hand soap I like, Spearmint Eucalyptus, which I water down to make a foaming soap. I receive a bottle each year from a friend who knows I cannot go in there. However, when she visits, she returns with a large bag of items, and even the bag itself is too much for me. Story 45. That smell after someone sneezes is unpleasant. Even when I sneeze, the odor that follows disgusts me, and it's from me. Story 46. When people's hygiene is so poor that they emit an unpleasant odor from unwashed areas and body odor that lingers if you catch a whiff. Story 47. Reheated fish in a microwave. When I was pregnant, someone did this in the open plan office and I had to go home. Story 48. The smell of someone who hasn't bathed or an adult wearing a diaper is noticeable from the next aisle. Story 49. I went down on my partner who didn't inform me she was on her period, and nothing will ever top that smell. I resurfaced, gagged several times, and then apologized before running to the restroom. Story 50. Lavender-scented dog waste bags have a strange and unpleasant odor. Associating the lavender scent with the smell of waste makes even the bag itself difficult to tolerate. Story 51. Ginger juice is highly concentrated. My mom makes me drink it because she believes it cleanses the stomach, but it truly smells bad. Story 52. I went to my stepmother's family's house for Christmas when I was about 11 or 12. There was a cheese ball dip that was multicolored, orange, red, white, and yellow. I have no idea what it was exactly, but I felt physically ill from just the smell of it. I have seen it many times in the store, and just looking at it reminds me of the Christmas party. I can't actually smell it now, but I have a kind of post-traumatic stress reaction. That smell is the worst. Story 53. Easter lilies. Every Easter Sunday, when I was growing up, our church would have pots of them lining the stage in the sanctuary. I remember being 8 years old and almost unable to breathe from the scent. I can't stand the smell to this day. Additionally, the lily species of flower are highly toxic to cats. Keep them away from your feline companions. Story 54. Besides typically having a bad smell, some coconut creams smell pleasant and coconut-like. However, Body Shop products have a very strong and overwhelming scent that does not resemble coconut at all. Instead, it smells unpleasant and musty. Story 55. It makes me recoil. There is always at least one shopping assistant in a store who doesn't shower and smells unpleasant. Story 56. Smoked salmon is very off-putting to me, and I can't explain why I prefer that smell over any other. Story 57. Steak and onion pie. I have an unfortunate mental association with it due to one of my cousins going through a phase in the 1990s when he believed wearing deodorant was not masculine. I often had to walk behind him or sit next to him in summer. Story 58. Laundry that was left in the washer too long and then dried, mixed with sweat and body odor, needs to be dealt with. Please take care of it. I can't handle it. Story 59. I like the smell of vapes, but my mind often reminds me that if I smell it, I am inhaling something that was directly and recently inside someone else's respiratory system, and for that reason I am out. I understand that all air is recycled, especially in crowded spaces, but the smell of the vape triggers this reminder in my mind. Story 60. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. Story 61. There is a specific and overwhelming smell of musty, overused cooking oil that I first encountered in the dining area of my alma mater during orientation week of my freshman year. I have since smelled it at Dulles Airport. It is a truly traumatizing scent. Story 62. Artificial banana flavoring is not even close to real bananas and makes me gag instantly. My sister got me banana-scented hand sanitizer as a joke, and I almost threw up in the middle of Target. Story 63. Cigarettes, peanuts, body odor, every male body spray, especially when used to mask body odor and it doesn't work. Cloves, when someone hasn't showered for a long time and thinks that changing clothes or adding more will fix the problem. Anything rotten. Story 64. The smell of cleaning out a container with ranch dressing in it makes me want to vomit. Story 65. I used to work in a hospital laboratory, specifically in the anatomical pathology section. The most unpleasant thing I ever encountered was a necrosed, sectioned colon. It didn't make me vomit, but it hurt every layer of my olfactory system and instantly triggered a fight or flight response. Story 66. Maple syrup, especially when warm, has a stronger smell. Ever since I was pregnant nearly 30 years ago, it makes me feel sick to my stomach. Story 67. I barely have a sense of smell. I can only detect random scents and not always in detail. For example, all perfumes smell like what I think hand sanitizer smells like, and male perfumes remind me of Head and Shoulders shampoo for some reason. Aftershave is one of the worst smells for me. They all smell the same, and it almost burns my nose, making me continue to smell it for a long time. The only reason it is worse than cannabis is that people commonly use aftershave, while I can go a long time without smelling cannabis again. Story 68. Celery, bad breath, other people's flatulence, dog flatulence, unwashed body parts, air fresheners, public restrooms. Many things. Story 69. The smell of old gym socks that have been left in a locker for a week is absolutely revolting. You know when you open a gym bag and the smell hits you so hard it almost makes your eyes water? It's a disgusting mix of stale sweat, mildew, and pure regret. Honestly, I would rather breathe in exhaust fumes than deal with that. Just thinking about it makes me want to gag. Story 70. Plain black coffee dried on something vaguely reminds me of cat urine, which is unpleasant. I discovered this when I spilled coffee on my work lanyard and thought, what is that smell? I then realized my morning mistake. Story 71. You know the smell you get on your hands when you touch coins or anything metal? I hate that smell more than anything. I will wash my hands immediately after touching anything metal. I don't let my girlfriend put her hands near my face if she has touched keys or coins. I can't stand it. Story 72. Really strong cologne. I was cutting my lawn and could smell a man's cologne as he drove past me. And I thought, oh dear God, why? Story 73. Canned fish, salt-preserved fish, and boiled eggs. Salted cod has the most unpleasant aroma to me. It makes me gag. Story 74. You know how you can't help but imagine a pink elephant when asked about one? Well, I can smell what I imagine, and I dislike this thread. Story 75. Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. My coworker brings one of these two to work almost every day, and it makes me feel sick. Story 76. Holding my breath as I write this. Entering busy public restrooms for ladies, where it is one in, one out, can be challenging. The smell of unwashed bodies that some previous users leave lingering in a stall with large gaps at the top and bottom is enough to make you feel sick. Shuddering. Story 77. Something about the cheese on cheap fast food pizza, like Domino's and especially Little Caesars, is just so off. Instead of an aftertaste, it has an after smell that is quite unpleasant. I don't know how to describe it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.